to people within Southern. The borough can benefit from this kind of apprenticeship via this project.
Okay, thank you. I'll take 3 more questions from the audience. Any more? We've got one over here. If you could introduce yourself.
I'm Adam, I'm a local resident. Is there a possibility that when you start demolishing it, you come across things that result in another long delay, or are you satisfied with the investigations that have already been carried out? And then secondly, obviously the building on the corner of Empire Grove was completed a couple of years ago and sat empty. What we don't want is for Van Russell to finish their work in the summer and then it all sit empty and static for another 2 or 3 years with security guards sitting in it. So is the council team sort of prepping and getting ready to get occupants so that in the summer it's not just physically finished, but it's a sort of thriving, place?
Thank you so much for that, Adam. Any more questions? One in the middle here. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Andrew, and I'd like to speak to the contractor that's in the donation. I know Sir is a lot of mentioned things so that the report that all the checks so we can make our space clear. And also we've got the knowledge from feasible, also on the removal of that demolition is going to be back on Devonshire Road. Since we did it 5 times. So, tell us, what's this impact on traffic?
Thank you so much for that. So I think that's a question about asbestos and also the impact on the busy roads around. Are there any more questions at the station?
People have got lots of questions to ask them.
Yes, Ian John Cock. Could you tell me, please, whether the bus services stopping us at the station will be affected during the course of the works?
Thank you. So yes, some very good questions there about asbestos, about the impact on traffic and bus routes nearby, and of course the question as well from Adam over here. So
I think it would start with me again. So in terms of will we find anything, we don't know until we find it. We have spent a lot of time doing surveys. Therefore, I've been on site for a number of months before the contractor actually left, so they could do more intensive work, just to make sure that all the drawings we've had surveyors reports over the years, just making sure that everything is right. But we won't know, particularly with platform 3, we won't know until that building is removed, to be completely honest. What's happening with that. So there may well be something we come across, don't know. We've tried to cover everything off, but we'll wait and see. In terms of the white building next to Asda, and the above will be a nursery. So that is
Okay, so what they're saying is we're going to have an Asda and a nursery.
That's where we got to. We're now in a position where those 2 contracts have been agreed. And so what they'll now do is look at the building. It has taken longer than we wanted. We have had security in there for a while, partly because the building wasn't done to our satisfaction, or at least with the building. So we couldn't actually let it to anyone until that one was resolved. That is now already resolved, so that building can now be let. In terms of the rest of it, we clearly need to make sure that when we finish the railway arches, for example, what part of the work that we'll be doing is opening up railway arches. We've got companies ready to take them, so they don't sit there empty. So we do, obviously, trying to make sure that as soon as the work's finished, there's somebody to move in, ideally before, so we can actually start doing some of the fit out of the work. So that's the intention, but we're clearly going to wait and see. In terms of construction traffic, as part of the construction management plan, there is a plan saying where the traffic goes.
Those are your councillors, guys.
Because of the way that Rye Lane is, with the number of buses, etc., it's really limited what can come and go on Rye Lane. So it will go off the side roads. There's no way around that, unfortunately. And there is a lot of material to remove on site. And as part of it, some of the material, I think, will be crushed on site as part of the normal process, but there will be it will be disruptive, there will be construction vehicles, we can't deny that, but hopefully it's for a short time, and hopefully that the end result is worth doing, and for that reason, but there will be disruption. We can't do anything about that. And clearly, if there are any issues with any of that, we will deal with that through the process. I'm just thinking in terms of other questions. There was a question about asbestos. So clearly, in terms of asbestos, we knew where all the asbestos was. My understanding most I think that's either been removed or we know where it is and will be removed during the process. I think a lot of it's already gone. We did something called stripping of the building, which is taking a lot of that kind of stuff out for early on. So I think the risk of unknown asbestos is very low, but if any is identified, that then stops work until that's dealt with. It has to be dealt with in a certain way. So I don't think there's anything to worry about except for that. It will be identified if there is any left that we're not aware of. But I think the building has been gone over so much over the last 10 years, we should know everything about it.
In regards to the asbestos, as Neil said, we've done a pretty intensive or intrusive survey, so we've got a pretty good idea what's in that building and what consists of asbestos. In regards to removing asbestos, we as a contractor have some pretty strict requirements for removing asbestos, and that is both to protect our own workforce and obviously the wider public. So that will be done in a completely controlled manner, and it's undertaken by licensed contractors as well. So that will be, as I said, both protecting us as a workforce and you guys around the site. Construction.
Yeah, I can talk about the construction traffic. So as Neil mentioned, we have to go through the construction management plan process. We have an individual contractor who does like a swept path analysis. Basically, that means they measure the road by sort of survey, like advanced Google Maps. They can measure the exact width for all the roads, including parking spaces, and make sure our site vehicles can get through without any clashes. And we have to prove that to the council with each vehicle we plan on using to basically ensure that we aren't going to try and send a massive lorry down the road that clearly isn't going to fit down. So that process is all basically carried out before we even get to site. And we actually have, earlier this week, had to take a couple of parking space suspensions if anyone does live on Bellenden Road, and that's just to ensure that the slightly larger vehicles that we needed just to help with the site setup could get through. So that's the whole process that we have to go through as well, and that's what the swept path basically flags up, is that a certain size vehicle will need to get down this road. We will have to shut a few parking spaces. So that's the kind of lens we go to, basically to ensure that we're not going to cause any issues with getting things stuck or hit anybody's vehicles or anything like that. And we have lots of other things like traffic marshals, signage and things.
Just to come back, was there any, obviously you had a question about the bus routes?
Yes.
To address the buses?
I was just going to get to that as well. Thank you for reminding me. So with the bus routes, we work with TfL as well. So we have a TfL licensing agent, I suppose is the word, that we speak to and basically ask for any bus stop suspensions where we might need them. We work quite closely with our sort of phasing of the job. We don't envisage any bus stop closures in the day during the demolition works or most of the main square works. The only time that we may have to shut the bus stops during the day is when we come to resurface the whole, basically when we resurface the whole square where the building's gone. The resurfacing scheme does come right up to the curb line on the bus stop, so we'll be resurfacing the footpath there as well. And obviously, we're going to be resurfacing the footpath where the buses stop. At some point, some of that will need to be closed. So there's a bit of a more detailed phasing plan that we still need to work out when it comes to that part right at the back end of the project. And it might be a case that we could maybe cut the bus stop in half, maybe open it one end, move the bus stop slightly further up, and close a section of the footpath. But that's to be sort of determined later on in the scheme, probably in the start of next year, so we're probably going to get onto that. But yeah, for the first 4, 5, 6 months when we're demolishing it, we don't have any daytime bus stop closures. We just have some nighttime closures to aid with putting up the scaffold on the right lane. So the bus stop will be closed. I think we've applied for 9:30 at night until 5 in the morning, I believe, for a couple of weeks. And that's actually coming up in the next couple of weeks, subject to final TfL approval. So that's the main bus stop overall.
Okay, I think we'll probably address those questions. We've got enough time for one or tram sheet questions, so please do all put your hands up and I'll look to answer. We've got one here.
I'm not sure if this is a station or a square question, probably both, which is toilets. The compound has gone up very quickly and efficiently, and naturally provides toilets for people working on site. It is also at the site of Peckham Ponds, which are created, particularly at weekends, by people urinating in the absence of any toilets on the station, or any sort of sufficient toilets on the station. So is there any sort of short-term action going to be taken to create toilets, and longer-term, which more in the station?
Okay, thank you, John. I think there's some questions over here, so I'll just bring the mic over. Apologies. We have one question here.
Hi, Jane Hawkins, I'm the local resident. I cycle through Peckham a lot as well as use the station. So my question is, it suddenly occurred to me with all these heavy vehicles, what action is being taken to mitigate the risk of them hitting the cyclists? Because I think quite a few fatalities, but most fatalities do involve these heavy, very heavy vehicles. So will there be training for the drivers, safety measures?
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. I mean, it's great to see it going ahead. Lived here for a long time. It's been going on for a really long time. Demolition's supposed to start some that's happening now. Good to see. What are you going to do to help us people who've kind of seen it all before? So the awnings near the new building were there for a couple of years now, and the entrance couldn't get through for no particular reason. The drain is blocked in the middle, which I think is the Arch Company's responsibility to update, but still blocked. There's water coming down to talk through the station from the Arch at the moment. I live on Chadwick Road, which is on the one-way system. We have a photo file of records where the P13 bus has scratched our cars, let alone these construction things. We need a single point of contact that we can come to with the issues on all of this. We got a letter to our doors, that was fab, didn't give us a name to go to in terms of who we talked to, because we're going to hear, you can see, you stand on a garden, you can see the railway platform. So it is an opportunity for Southwark and Network Rail, and whoever else is involved in this, probably at least the construction people, to be honest, that they're just doing the job for them, to try a really different way of doing it. We desperately want the station to be revamped, but we do need to have good communication in the meantime for it not just to go on and on and on. That place, you come out of the station, it's the entrance to Peckham. It is, an amazing place. You know how many people go through it all the time. It's really important we don't get stuck with a kind of sort of substandard waiting on the square to be done in the meantime, please. So the main ask is just to have a contact, particularly for people who are really close. Thank you.
And Zoe, Jane, and John. Okay, so we've got a few questions there. Who wants to go first? So I'll start with me on toilets. So as part of the original plan for the square, we did look at putting toilets into one of the arches by the station. We couldn't actually get ownership of that arch. So at the moment there are no plans for public toilets in Station Square. There are toilets within the station behind the barrier, and those will, as part of the station scheme, and there are also toilets in other council buildings around the area, such as the Folsom Library. As part of the Ayrsham Centre development, if that were to go ahead, and that's waiting on the planning appeal decision, there will be toilets provided as part of that. So that's additional toilets. I don't know what most people want to hear, but that is the current position. In terms of the point of contact and communications, you're absolutely right, we need to have those points of contact. So now we've got that on board. One of the things that BAM will be doing is making people aware of if there is an issue, who do you go to, who do you contact, and she did, which is fantastic. And from the council point of view as well, we'll also be circulating some more contact details. It's good that you put the letter, so it shows that some things are working, but clearly we need to get better at doing that, and we need to tell people more what's going on. So the other one around sort of construction vehicles, again, that's part of
the management plan that we've got going on down there.
I just wanted to add on communication. I think I'm really conscious that it could have been better, and I know there's been a lot of questions over the last few months about what's going on. One of the things that we have done more broadly in terms of all of the projects that are going on in the local area is that we now have neighbourhood forums, and we've brought together these regular meetings, a newsletter that goes alongside that. So I would really encourage people to sign up for that as well, because that will help kind of give a sense of both kind of regular check-in points to discuss everything going on around Peckham Town Centre and help join things up a little bit. But absolutely, we will be providing kind of particular ways in which you can communicate on this project as well.
Was there anything further to add on any of those? No?
Okay, well, unfortunately we are going to move on to the next section because we need to keep time, okay? Apologies, Paul. But we were going to move on to the next bit, which is around the station. So I know this is conscious what a lot of people are here to talk about specifically. So before we move on to the station, I'd just like to clarify the timeline of events for Peckham High Station. So obviously in August 2023, Suffolk Council granted Network Rail planning permission for the transformation of Peckham High Station. As many of you know, this is a major proposal for new lifts and staircases for platforms, accessible toilets, and to create more space within the station itself. The plans also included larger gate lines and entrances and better access into the station. So these proposals were not funded in the summer 2025 spending review and are currently on hold awaiting funding. As soon as that was announced, within days, your right-wing Labour councillors had signed petition demanding this decision be overturned. That's why a petition was launched at that time, more than 6 months ago, and because only then did it become apparent that our station's funding wasn't going to be provided. So on that note, if it's possible, we'd like to now pass on to Mias van der Loo, MP for Peckham, who will be able to give us a bit of an update, as well as, of course, Network Rail as well. So
MP for Peckham, guys. Here she is.
Cool, thank you. Does this work?
Brilliant. Thank you so much, and it's fantastic to see so many people here, and I know how important the station is in getting it right and getting it accessible is. Just to kind of pick up from where David ended up and to try and give you a bit of a sense of what is happening behind the money. It's a really good scheme. I think the two things that the council has done really well is make the strength of the community felt and understood. So in the department, I know that they know that this is a really important scheme. I know that they know the strength of feeling in the community around the scheme. And we had got, if you like, a tacit agreement that we had a really viable project and that was really fundable. And that's the hard part, because sometimes you can want something but you haven't made the case and you haven't made the business case. That's not where we are. I was desperate that we would get the funding in the spending round. The council has been putting a lot of pressure on the government, on me, and I've been putting a lot of pressure on the government as well. The spending round ended up being tighter than the department wanted, so there were many schemes that they had on their list that they had to sort of push back, which was massively disappointed for us. It's worth saying that both the council, alongside the petition, has written to the Secretary of State. I've spoken to the Secretary of State on multiple occasions just to stress how important this is for the community, and there is a recognition of that. I am hopeful that in the next round we'll be looked on pretty favourably. I think the fact that